Rather than taking my large bamboo shepherd's crozier, known to some as my social distancing stick, I set off on my sunrise walk with one of my aged and well-worn joe staffs. A joe staff, to most folks, appears to be nothing more than a broomstick. On closer examination, well, it's really not much more than a broomstick. What makes it a joe staff? Well, when you walk with a broomstick, or you whack someone with a broomstick, or you defend yourself with a broomstick, it's not a broomstick, it's a joe staff. If the fellow wearing a hakama in front of the room presents a wooden dowel to someone in the kids' Aikido class with some ceremony, it's not a dowel, it's a joe staff. If it's longer than a joe staff, it's probably a bow staff. Shorter, well, that's a short staff, or tanbo. Otherwise, call it a joe staff. The joe staff in particular, when used in martial arts practice, is generally fashioned from hardwood. For the hoi polloi, something like a red oak is fine, while the more hoity-toity may appreciate a more pricey white oak. For those with a sense of history and tradition, those woods might be selected and harvested from particular forests in particular regions of particular countries, may be fashioned by particular craftsmen, may be even handed down from master to student with reverence, alluding to the former's infusion of ki, the master's spirit or energy, into the device. All in all, these broomsticks can be quite pricey or even prized. Once we've decided that these items are in fact joe staffs, not broomsticks, we care for them and handle them with the discipline and reverence due a live blade. They are weapons in their own right, and they are more generally tools in practicing certain martial principles such as distance and timing. Though each weapon in the Aikido trinity of sword, or bokken, walking stick, or joe staff, and knife, or tanto, brings a particular focus and set of lessons to teach, I admit a personal affinity for those of the joe staff. One beautiful aspect of the joe practice is the reminder that the other end of the staff is always at the ready for an appearance when least expected. In some sense, you identify your target and the joe staff finds a way, following intention. So yes, that's a natural, eventual lesson of all martial arts, with or without weapons. That fluid improvisation and transition with your ingrained skills. Still, in my view, at least for Aikido, the joe staff expresses the principle most elegantly. And that reverence for the joe, I think, may just be one of those things that hopefully can be useful on the path. Kind of like a walking stick might be useful when you're out for a walk. But what if you brought a joe staff, then found you needed a walking stick? Once you understand the joe staff's lesson, you won't give it a second thought. Of course, if you really understand the joe staff's lesson, you might not have had that concern in the first place. I mean, you can't let go of the joe if you never picked it up in the first place, right? So, around 25 years later, I still pick up the joe staff in practice. There's always more to learn. Oh, and right, almost forgot. Rather than taking my large bamboo shepherd's crozier, also known as my social distancing stick, I set off on my sunrise walk with one of my aged and well-worn joe staffs. Along the way, I came upon a turn where the sidewalk narrows. A hill to my left, and the street on the right. In front of me, a woman approached, and she carried a walking stick of her own. A beautiful, once coarse portion of a tree branch. Seeing an imminent encounter, she struggled to put her face mask on while juggling her phone and her walking stick. I left the path and walked along the street in deference, freeing her from her dilemma with a wave of my free hand. Once we were close enough, I complimented her on her fine choice of a stick, raising my own in a salute of camaraderie. We shared a laugh, and as we were about to pass, I told her that on our next encounter, we could duel. 2 days later, on another part of the path, I saw the same woman coming out of her home. On seeing me, she gave a mighty laugh and raised her stick in greeting. I did the same and told her I'd see her on the other side. Later, we met again near that same narrow stretch. Again, the laugh. Again struggling to mask up. Rather than duel, I suggested this time a stick high five, a suitable, well-distanced greeting for new friends during a pandemic. Now, in spite of the effort to get myself moving sometimes, I do look forward to those walks. With some positive intent, a walk might be just what I need to turn the day around. And whatever I was carrying when I set off on my path just might become precisely what I needed to get the job done. Sometimes in the most unexpected and surprising ways.